everyone. It's your host, Julianne Meyer of Own Your Wellness. So happy to be here again. Today, I have a special guest, Canadian. I'm sitting here in Southern California, a little on the warm side, but Jenn Smrz is with us today from Ontario, Canada. Might be a little cold. I'm not 100% sure, but if she drinks some wine, cut her some slack. She's hours ahead of us. Anyway, let's bring her on and hear more about her. Hey, Jenn, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. How is it? How is everything there in California?
You know, it's sunny now. It has been kind of rainy-ish all day, which is weird for here. But you know what? I can't complain. I've got a wonderful guest here on the show, and I'm excited. I am excited to have you. You and I met organically, which is pretty cool. And I just love your story and who you are and the energy that you exude. So I would love it if you would share a little bit about yourself and your own wellness journey.
Okay, well, in terms of fitness, I've always been in the fitness industry. I had two older brothers, so very competitive growing up, and then worked at gyms, was a personal trainer, a fitness instructor, and I've carried on that even my career as a human resource generalist, manager, career coach, and really anything to do with helping people live a healthier life, put together their fitness goals, whether it's weight management or nutrition. I just love helping people. That seems to be the common stream in anything that I take part in.
I love that because not a lot of people can put two and two together and realizing that it's really just about helping people and it doesn't have to look a certain way. So I love that you're able to recognize that.
Right.
So I know that you have had a little bit of a personal health journey as well. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Absolutely. It's coming up to 2 years in May. I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and at the time I was 43. So it was a shock. Anyone getting cancer is scary, but I was fitness. So it was a shock, but we got through it, and I had my first surgery 2 weeks later. So at least everything was very fast. Sadly, I needed another surgery. So within 2 weeks, I had 2 surgeries. But I'm very fortunate. We have a cottage, so I was able to recover up at the cottage with my 2 sons. Went through chemo, finished that right before Christmas of 2019. Radiation finished in March of last year when the world hit an all-time low. But I was on the mend thing. Everything my hair was starting to grow in, life was getting good. And I did find out I had another tumor. So I chose the route of a double mastectomy on my birthday in July. And hopefully that was the end of it. And under the guidance of my oncologist and gynecologist, they highly recommended that I go through a hysterectomy as well. So within 15 months, 4 surgeries and 9 months of cancer treatment. So it's been a roller coaster, to say the least, but I really feel stronger than ever. I think the experience, as scary as it was, emotionally, mentally, physically, it's made me a different person. You do take horrible situations and come out stronger, and I feel that I've come out a stronger person.
I love that you're willing to and able to see. Actually, I can hear me on your side. Can you turn down the volume just a little bit?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So what I was going to say, though, was that I love it when people can I'm sure it hasn't always been like that. There's definitely times when you're just like, why is this happening? And you're just in the feels. But I love it when you can overcome that in general and just be able to see, okay, this is the bigger picture again. I'm stronger now. So I love that you're able to do that. Something that you didn't know that I didn't share with you is that my mom had breast cancer. She actually ended up passing away when she was 43 from it. It was 3rd time she got it, though. So, she had it really early, and it was definitely environmental that caused it for her. But something that she always said to me, she ended up passing away, but something that she always said to me that has stuck with me is that more people live with cancer than die from it. And so I just thought that that was so profound that it's something that, you can get through.
Absolutely.
How have do you think that your diet, and I'm sure your exercise has changed since, you had all these surgeries, but would you say your diet has helped you through this?
You know what? Yes. The quick answer is yes. Since in the last 6 months, I've actually been doing a lot of research and reading different books on the relationship with your food and cancer. Um, who knows if something that I ate when I was younger, had any effect. Certainly in my 20s to now, we eat clean, nothing processed. I make everything from scratch. I do think with the number of surgeries I went through, I jumped back pretty quick. And I'm still part of a cancer support group. And so people post all sorts of things. And I mean, yes, I had symptoms coming out of chemo, but for the most part, I still went to my son's hockey game. I was able to do everything. So I do attribute a lot of that to going in healthy, not healthy enough to beat, to not get cancer in the first place. But I think my lifestyle and being physically fit has helped me.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because my dad, he ended up having to have, I think it was triple bypass surgery, and he's a vegetarian, practically vegan, super healthy guy. And he's like, why did this happen? And his doctor said, well, it would have happened a lot sooner had you not been as healthy. And then the fact that he literally, the biggest miracle drug that he took for his pain was Tylenol. After this, he had his chest ripped open and he was taking Tylenol. So it does matter what you eat. So I love that you can, attribute some of your health to that. But I'm curious because it is such a, it's such a strain on your body, especially radiation, all these and the surgeries and everything else. And emotionally, I'm sure it was tough. So you must have a strong support system for you, like with people.
You know what? I am very fortunate. I definitely do. My husband's been through it all. I still got both parents, sister-in-law, my brother. Whether it's a text or bringing a meal or what have you, they and friends. I shouldn't leave out friends. I actually, when I was first diagnosed and going through chemo, one group of friends organized. They essentially collected money so that to help with the cleaning service. Another group did meal trains. So yeah, going through anything when you have a great support, I feel very blessed for that, for sure.
I love it. I'm so glad to hear it because not everybody has that. Are you?
Absolutely not.
I'm just thinking about one of my friends, Tamara Hunter, and she survived cancer as well, and she started a group, a nonprofit called Chemo Buddies, and she teams people up with the same type of cancer so that they can, walk the journey together. And I just thought that was talk about making lemonade out of lemons.
It's such a great, yes. Here in Canada, we have an non-for-profit. It's called Wellsprings. And right now everything's virtual, but it's essentially in a home that they have yoga classes, they have art classes, they have meditation. You have access to counselors. They have groups even for the family, because as the patient going through cancer, it's difficult, but there's a big strain on everyone involved, your family, your children, your support. So I don't know if that is throughout in the States as well, but it's a very popular program here.
Froze again. Just a second. Hopefully you can hear me. There she is. She's back again. So you mentioned a few things about this nonprofit, and that was that, there's meditation and art and, all these beautiful modalities that can really help you connect with your soul and kind of ease the anxiety and the stress from, all that you're going through. What are your favorite things to help you when you need help?
For myself, I usually do a meditation, whether it's guided or, just some deep breaths. With being a yoga instructor, I've got a few techniques that I enjoy doing. And I just love being outdoors. So as much as I could, I mean, even after the surgery, they're like, you shouldn't be moving much. It didn't take me long to, go around the block and then make it a little fur. So that was helpful for me. We did get a puppy in the midst of all of this. So she's kept me going, and she's one that pulls me for the days that I was tired. So those are some of the things. And certainly when I was feeling better, working out, it's just a routine for me. It's not a chore. It's part of my life. So it was hard when I couldn't do that.
Yeah. I mean, I know about me, for me, is I get my endorphins that way. So it's hard when all of a sudden you can't suddenly do what you've always done. So, so speaking of that takes a mindset and a shift in your perception of things. And how were you able to deal with the new you when, you were recovering from surgeries, for example, or maybe not feeling 100% because of what your body was going through?
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question. And depending on the day, I might have had, I could have different answers. It was, I mean, certainly very humbling, I'll admit, especially after when I had the 2 surgeries, June of 2019. I was off instructing for 6 weeks and then taught a class. And yet I still didn't have full mobility, so I still couldn't fully lift my arm. And it was a yoga, Tai Chi, Pilates type class. So things that were so simple for me before, like even doing a down dog, I just couldn't do that. I couldn't do certain stretchings and so forth. So it's humbling, but it also makes you realize how fortunate you are that we can move and that we, a lot of people can't. I did get stronger. I don't know that my body will ever be the way it was. I mean, I'm getting older and the 4 surgeries didn't help. But I mean, again, I work out every day with weights and I feel good. And I think that's the important thing.
So I know that your boys are active as well. So how would you, for people, especially, I mean, I'm in California, as you know, so there's been lockdown for God knows how long. I mean, it's finally starting to get back to normal. But, a lot of people feel like they can't do things that they used to do. And you speaking about not necessarily being, I mean, it's different because you physically were able to. But what are some things that maybe you could incorporate that you found, like from home, or you were talking about yoga? I know that you're an instructor. So what are some things that you might recommend for somebody who doesn't feel comfortable going out?
You know what? I think you really have to find something that they enjoy, right? Because I could say, get out, go for a walk every day, or try something new. I did just take up tennis, which I never thought I'd be a tennis player. So I could recommend that. But if it's not something that someone's going to do, as a personal trainer, they have to enjoy it. But what I would encourage people is to just try new things, right? I mean, we're locked in our homes, and maybe it's try a yoga class. For the longest time, I didn't do yoga because I felt like you had to use weights and you had to sweat. And I wish I did it in my 20s. I maybe, so I would just encourage people to, be open to try something new and try something that they like. As they build that up, it's going to be addictive, and they'll probably want to do other things as well.
So I have been wanting to get into yoga personally. And, one of the things that's always stopped me is my thoughts of, well, I'm not, flexible enough. However, obviously, to become more flexible, you need to actually do things. Yeah. But, then there's the whole, well, maybe I'm not in shape enough for this sort of exercise. But obviously, I mean, as a personal trainer, I know that is just a perception and an excuse, literally an excuse to not do something. But how would you talk to somebody who, they just basically need some encouragement and they actually really believe that maybe they aren't good enough to even try?
You know what? And I mean, we had people like that. We always called them fragile eggs. And it was normally in January when people have these ambitious goals. So in the in examples, if someone came to one of my fitness classes, I would, without making them feel uncomfortable in front of the group, I would, if I noticed someone was new, I would talk to them at the beginning. I would try to give them some guidance throughout. I would, coach in general to everyone, but hopefully they would pick up that the cues were for them. Giving as many options as possible, I think, is really key. And also letting them know that if you do, you stay for 5 minutes the first time, that's okay. You've given it a try. Certainly with the muscle conditioning type workouts, if you do, the first 3 tracks for your first workout, that's good. You're done. Tap out. So I think just building that relationship with them afterwards, if they do make it for the whole class, go talk to them. If they don't, maybe try to find them afterwards in the gym and just see, how did they find it? And so it is scary. It's scary trying something new. Me trying tennis, it was the first experience. I was quite timid. So just trying to make someone feel comfortable.
Well, you mentioned something that's a huge deal to me, and that is that you don't have to stay for the entire thing. Mm-hmm. I've always felt like I was locked in and that it would be extremely rude if I left. And it was my fear that I wasn't physically able to continue. So you're saying to me that it's okay if I maybe peace out a little before the end.
Absolutely. Again, you want the person to be comfortable, and if they're tired or maybe it's not for them, whatever the case may be, you don't want to push them to do something they don't want to do. Or maybe they only have, they have 10, 15 minutes before they have to shower and go to work. You never know their story. But yeah, I always I would never want to, if someone's leaving, hey, where are you going? We got 5 minutes. I just don't think that would be, I wouldn't want that done to me. So I'm always happy to have whatever participants for as long as I can have them.
Well, the other thing too that I'm thinking about is there's a thing called growing pains, and they don't call them growing pains for nothing. There is some point where it's okay to be uncomfortable.
You're right. And it depends. Listen, I mean, I'm definitely, as an instructor, you do motivate people. And if it's a returning member, oh yeah, I might say, Julianne, no, you can go higher. Where are you going? It's more the members that are trying out something new. I think you want them to be comfortable and hope that they come back and know that there's options and they don't have to worry about the person beside them. Everyone's different. And flexibility, yes, some people are more flexible, but it also depends on the length of your limbs, right? Like if you have longer arms, it's going to be easier to touch your toes. I don't care how flexible or not. If you have shorter legs and, there's many different factors. So we just can't compare.
Apples and oranges.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah, no, I love that. And then the other thing too is that there are different types of yoga. So for somebody that's maybe starting out, obviously, because I mean, that's your forte and not mine, and that's the reason why you're on the show. I guess it kind of depends on what somebody's goals are, but what would be let's say, I know that there's like recovery types. What kinds of yoga are there?
Right.
I guess
so
is what I'm asking.
Recovery for some, it's quite lovely. You actually have big bolsters and you could sit and sleep for, like you really are trying to be comfortable. I'm sure they get you in some poses. That's not really my speed. I do more of a sort of a yin flow Vanasana. So from one pose to the next, you might hold the pose for a few breaths, but it's pretty continuous. For people that want a little bit more of a sweat, there's power yoga. So you're moving fast and you're building that stress to the body so that you feel like you're working. And one of my favorites though is a yin practice where whatever the amount of time you have, a half an hour, an hour. So if it's an hour class, you usually pick 3 to 6 poses. And so you can imagine that's all you have. Granted, you might have two legs, if you're depending on the pose, but you are in those positions for a long time. And, the better instructors will be helping you through and breathe and try to relax this muscle so that you can get deeper into the pose. But it is a deep stretch. And yeah, that's something it's a new discipline that I've learned, and I like it, but I do like moving. So the Vinyasa type, one pose to the next seems to be more my speed, and use a lot of Pilates because I do like the strength piece.
Well, I think that's interesting though about just doing like 3 or 6 moves, because that's almost like a meditation as well, because you really are just like, you are present whether you want to be or not.
Absolutely. And I mean, some of the poses, I am not overly flexible, probably even less so through the last 2 years. And some of the poses, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how long I can sing this. But again, you almost have to get yourself into a meditative, a deep breath type routine so that you can relax and get the full benefit, so that you're not completely struggling through the entire class.
So, lost your voice for a second there, but can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, awesome. We just barely lost the last little bit of your sentence. But anyway, I've got a question that I'm just dying to know the answer to. Okay, so if you're familiar with sushi, there's all kinds of rolls that are available in the United States. However, they would never exist in Japan. Like the spicy whatever. Like it's the Americanized version of what sushi is, or Canadian version, because I know that it's available there as well. So things like goat yoga, what's the point of goat yoga besides like a gimmick?
It's funny that you say that. I've never done it, but I did have a few friends. I don't know enough about the goat. I think and I could be completely wrong, so maybe don't take this to heart. I think it's just the atmosphere on where you're doing it. So I believe, or maybe there's more to it. Maybe there's goats involved, but I think it's like doing it at a farm, or, at a resort, or in the mountains. That's my guess, because I don't think you can actually be doing yoga with goats anywhere near you, I hope. But that's sort of my more feel. It's just the environment that they're in, maybe. Unless you've heard different. I don't know.
No, because I did a class of goat yoga.
Oh, you did?
And and they were just hanging around. It wasn't the real goat. I mean, it's such a California thing where they're like on your back and stuff. And to me, it just seems really bizarre. I mean, it seems like fun, but it doesn't seem like yoga. It seems like, spicy tuna for sushi, where it might taste good, but it's not real sushi. Like traditional, I should say. It's not traditional. But yeah, I did one where the goats were just walking around, and it was really more distracting than anything else. I mean, it was fun to hang out with them before and after, but I was more concerned about them eating things like our keys, as opposed to, like being in the move.
I think that would be very distracting. I remember I was at an not international, but a very large yoga retreat, and they had a drone when we were doing the meditation. And I'm like, this is not very relaxing. This is not relaxing at all.
No, I've never asked that question before. But I was just thinking about it, and I was like, while it might be fun, it just seems like a gimmick. And I was just wondering if you happen to have known anything that maybe I wasn't aware of. But yeah, I mean, to me, it just seems like a Southern California kind of a thing to do, because here it's
I think you're right. Just to say you did it, I don't know enough about it, but it's I don't know that I have to cross it off my list.
I mean, it's they're cute. Like, I love animals, so that part was fun, but it wasn't really. Yeah, and then they're like chewing on you while you're trying to be in a move, and it wasn't the most. Yeah, it was interesting. But anyway, on that note, it is time for our commercial break. So we will be back in just a few minutes. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Isn't she amazing? Yeah, no, I just can't believe I threw that question out there, but for real, what's the deal? Anyway, before we go to commercial break, I want to say hello to everybody who is watching us live. It's always such a pleasure, and I enjoy reading all the comments and just love having you here. But like I mentioned, we do need to go to commercial break. So we'll be right back after these messages.
When drug or alcohol addiction take over, things begin to disappear. Your friends, your family, and eventually, you. Recommended by Dr. Phil, New Method Wellness can help get your life back with individualized treatment plans for dual diagnosis clients. New Method Wellness provides the most highly credentialed treatment in a safe and welcome environment. Call New Method Wellness for your free consultation and ask about our national accreditations. Together, we can put the pieces back together.
Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us now, my name is Julianne Meyer, and you are watching Own Your Wellness. And today's special guest is Jenn Smrz. Let's bring her back and talk again. Hello, welcome back.
There.
So as the commercials were rolling, I was thinking about what I'm curious and what I would love for you to share with the audience. And what I'd really love for you to share about is how it is that you help people, like how, in which different ways?
Okay, so I would certainly in the fitness side. I'm not really a personal trainer anymore, but when you would have members even coming to your class or friends or neighbors, just helping people. I mean, you asked the question before, what would you recommend for people? It's finding out what do they enjoy doing. One neighbor hates working out. I'm like, okay, well, I go on a walk every day. Do you want me? So just finding something that they will do, and then if I can help them motivate, that's a bonus. I follow up with people, and again, these are not clients; these are friends. Have you gone for a walk today? What are you eating? Have you drank enough of water? So it's more not because I'm a nutritionist, but I've been eating clean. I do a lot of reading on it. So I think helping people in that regard. My sort of career type role is a career consultant. And so that's coaching individuals in between jobs. So helping them, build their confidence, help them with their resume, cover letter, prepping them for interviews. So just helping them realize there's life outside of the company they were at and get them back on track. And just in general wellness, I mean, I've always used natural products on my skin, but the toxin, parabens, and all the stuff in the products we use is pretty scary that I'm learning more and more. So I've, just educating people on that as well, and not trying to pushy. Everyone's got to be at their own comfort zone in it, but just sharing information. So those are probably the three top on how I try to help people.
Well, I love that because also, it's like whenever anybody's trying to change their the way they eat, because I hate the term diet, except that it's just kind of the neutral term, although it has so many other meanings to it. My point, though, is that you don't go from Oreo cookies to kale. Like right. It takes some time.
Absolutely. And I mean, I certainly have friends that do struggle with their weight. And when they say, what's the magic? There's no magic pill. There's no magic diet, so to speak. Yeah. I mean, I'm fortunate that I haven't had to struggle with my weight. So I realize I'm fortunate that way. However, it's to me, restrict anything, unless there's an allergy. If you restrict anything, your body eventually is going to crave it and you could binge, right? So if you just learn to properly portion things, allow yourself the treats. I think that's a better lifestyle than, try and do something very restrictive. Sure, you may lose weight, but if you're not going to live your life like that continuously, you're also going to gain the weight back, right? And we've seen in the trends, the yo-yo dieting. So I try to tell, friends, my sister-in-law has been on all sorts of cleanses and juices and this thing, and I try to encourage and support her, but just look at what you're eating, and portion sizes and variety, I think, is key.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts about trigger foods? Like for me, there's certain foods I can't keep in my house because if I do, I have no off switch with them. So, like for me,
you sound like my husband. He goes to the grocery store, he'll buy 2 cans so that he doesn't drink more. I'm like, really? I do. So depending on what your triggers are, if I had a bar of chocolate, and I prefer dark chocolate, maybe because you can only have one little piece because it's quite bitter. But either have them high up in a closet or don't have them in the house. I mean, truly, if it's something that, you shouldn't have, I would just say don't have it in the house, or actually make little packages, individually break for me, it's chocolates. I do love sweets, but have them in various places, but in, 1 or 2 pieces, not the entire bar, so that you don't get tempted. I
love that. Well, see, for me, my thing is cheese. I don't think I'll ever give up cheese. I say that now, but it doesn't sit well with my body. However, that doesn't stop me from eating it. So I just literally can't have any kind of cheese in my house, including soy cheese. It doesn't matter. Except for like Cheese Whiz, that's not cheese, but in my mind. However, I could go out and I'll indulge in like maybe a cheese plate, with a bunch of people when we're at a restaurant or something like that. But I literally cannot even have Parmesan in my house because I will eat it.
You'll eat it. Okay, fair enough.
I will.
So you put your limit, right? You don't have it in the house, and when you go out, it's a treat. Exactly. I think that works.
Yeah, exactly. But my point, though, in mentioning this is that, it's like you said, I'm not restricting, but I'm not, I know what my limitations are. Like, I can't have it in the house. I just can't because I will eat it. So, and I can't portion it out. I've tried that. Doesn't work for me, but but I still get to have it. And then when I leave, I'm like, okay, it's not in my refrigerator. So I'm not obsessively thinking about it, knowing that it's in my fridge because I ate it wherever I was. So,
right. Other strategies that I've done, I mean, again, I'm lucky that I enjoy drinking water, whether with lemon or whatever the case. But when someone has a craving or wants some cheese, okay, you can't have it in the house, and I know not to get you cheese, but maybe have a glass of water and the cheese so that they're full, or find something, a healthier choice with the cheese. Hopefully you're not going to eat as much of the cheese, possibly, but just different strategies that maybe will divert you eating the entire bar of cheese.
Oh yeah. No, it's funny though, because it took me a long time because, I've tried all the traditional ways of eating certain things that Maybe for me also another one was ice cream. Like I couldn't necessarily have ice cream in my house, but what worked for me was going out and eating it or having those little baby ones instead. Because then whenever I'm done with it, then I'm done with it. And it's not sitting there in my freezer. I'm not sitting there thinking about it. But, I think that some people get stuck with trying one thing. And if that doesn't work, then they just feel like they give up and they can't do it. And then all of a sudden they're just eating it because they can't do it that one way that they were taught. So.
Right. Yeah. It's, and that's not the right approach too. You have to figure out what's going to work for you.
Exactly. And there isn't one right approach, as you said. So I love that because it's so important that people are aware that what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with you,
Right. Absolutely.
Love that. So speaking of food, and you said that you eat clean. What does that mean for you to eat clean?
So, I should rephrase that because that too, everyone has different definitions. When I say that, I like to make everything from scratch. So I mean, my kids, I can't say don't eat any processed stuff, especially now that they're a little older. They do their own thing. But I try to make recipes from the fresher, the better. I do eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. I do eat meat, but I try to eat. It's not necessarily organic, but know where it's from, like a local farm.
Yeah.
I love sweets. I grew up with having dessert at the end of every meal, which has been my must. But I will make my own, so I know what's in it. Maybe use whole wheat flour or a different oat flour or whatever it may be. I try not to use a lot of sugars. I'll use more maple syrup or honey or sweeten it in a applesauce, whatever. So I try to get creative with that. So that's what eating clean for me is. It's as
I love that.
Fresh as it can be.
Yeah, exactly. And then, because I'm not sure if you're familiar with Michael Pollan, but he is a food person and he's written some amazing books. And one of them is a little tiny one that I used to love to give to clients, and that's called Food Rules. And in Food Rules, he says you can have as much junk food as you want as long as you make it yourself. And it's always stuck with me because, that slows you down, first of all. And second of all, you know exactly what's in it. And you probably
often would change your mind, right? Because I love ice cream. I make my own now, but even pies and I love pies, but knowing how much, in the past it was probably lard, now it's butter, but so now I make it out of a sort of like an oatmeal crust, right? So to me, it's still okay. I'm still getting my pie, but it's more of a crumble. So I like that idea. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I thought that was brilliant. Plus, you're not going to mindlessly eat it because of all the work you put into it. You're going to sit there and actually taste it. And another trick, just thinking about it now, that I love, especially for people who love sweets and tend to eat them mindlessly, is to close your eyes when you're eating it, because then you really taste it and you'll feel more satisfied when you're done with whatever that slice of pie is, for example. So, and I've tried it. It works. It really,
it really works. And that's similar to just mindfully, whatever you do, whether it's walking or eating. So many are in front of the TV, or just rushing from here to there. But if you stop and, really taste each mouthful and the textures and stuff, as you say, I think you would slow down and maybe not need as much. But I do a lot of mindfulness that way. And it just made me think with you saying that.
Yeah, no, I actually spent some time, and when I say some time, like a weekend, or I think it was a weekend at a monastery, and it was amazing how full I was because you weren't allowed to talk, and, which was great. So you're sitting there eating and chewing, like really chewing your food. And, I was so much more full and satisfied and actually had nutrients in my body as opposed to eating, not that I eat at McDonald's, but that's like a 2,000 calorie meal and I'm hungry 5 minutes later kind of a thing where, and then there's like zero redeeming qualities in that whatsoever.
Right.
You know, I could have like some vegetables and be full and be nourished as well because I actually was paying attention to eating. So I love the
Yes,
mindfulness. How else do you
absolutely.
practice mindfulness?
You know what? I mean, I don't come across that I do it all the time. I consciously have to tell myself,
Yeah.
but if I go for a walk, so, you know, usually my mind's always racing or I'm, you know, yanking on my dog. But if, you know, I do different times just stop and be like, what are the different colors you see? And, you know, the vibrance for you in California, you have a lot more color right now, but, or, you know, when I was walking in the snow, you know, that your boots and the walks in the snow or the shadow cascaded, like the beauty that you can find when you do just quiet your mind and take in really the senses, so to speak. So that's certainly a way that I ground myself, or if I'm feeling really stressed. So going outside and just taking in the sense, trying to identify 5 things I see, 5 things, you know, that you feel or you smell. And it's amazing how you can just relax your mind and your heart rate. And it's a great practice.
I love that. It is. And it's really, I mean, it's simple. It's not necessarily easy, but at least at first, especially if you got that monkey mind going on, but it
For
does
sure.
quiet
And
down.
I don't mean to say it's easy by any means, but yeah, it's just taking a
It
step
gets,
back,
yeah,
few
and it does
breaths,
get
and then
easier. Yeah.
right.
Yeah, no, but it's a practice. When you say it's a practice, and practice takes practice. So
Exactly. Exactly.
So I'm curious, since you know, you and I are on a very similar health journey. Um, do you have, and I hate to use like the word routine or anything like that, but do you have any rituals or things that you love to do for your body, mind, and soul on a daily basis or even like a weekly basis?
So I would say every day I do some type of activity. So usually on the weekends, it could just be a walk. And then, and I do prefer to work out in the morning. It's just if I, you know, if you get your day, and not everyone can, but I, you know, normally that's one of the first things I do is do my work, and I just feel better. Like I feel energized, but I mean, it doesn't sound good to say I've gotten it out of the way, but I just know you get busy on the day, it's a lot harder for me to do it later. Um, but so in the morning, I will do whether it's cardio or strength training, and I normally do 3 days of strength training per week. And then late afternoon or right before I go to bed, I love to do either yoga or just stretching. Should bring it in front of the TV, but if I can multitask and get some stretching in and watch a few episodes, not that I watch a lot of TV, but sometimes it's, you know, if I'm there with my boys, it's a case of trying to get many things done at once. But I would say that those are getting a workout in the morning, getting outside for with my dog every day, and doing some stretching is pretty routine for me.
I like that. And I was thinking about the whole getting it out of the way thing. And that's literally how I think of it, because not that I don't enjoy a workout, because I do, but by the end of the day, I have a million more excuses not to do it
Yes.
and reasons, and all of a sudden time's short. And that's the first thing that's going to go, even though it is important to me. But to get
Right.
that done, then I don't have to think about it either. It doesn't take up any, brain power.
Yes.
Talking. Yeah. When am I going to fit this in? Am I going to? Do I want to? Don't I? All that stuff that I still get. And even, I don't train a lot of people anymore, but I still have a personal trainer because sometimes I don't feel like motivating myself. So knowing I'm going to go meet somebody, I'm going to go, get it done. So whatever works,
Right. And it's whatever works, whatever's going to, reach your goal, whatever that is.
Exactly. So what are some, have you been able to trick yourself? And I hate to use that term because it sounds like tricking, but are there ways that you've been able to sort of develop new habits that might be difficult, that are healthy for you? Maybe habit stacking, or what's worked for you?
I think for me is Well, probably scheduling it in. So again, for me, it's doing it in the morning, but I think certainly for people that don't enjoy working out, you've got to put it in your schedule like you would a meeting with your boss, right? And if you do that, make yourself accountable. It's going to become a habit, and if you're fortunate like us who enjoy working out, it's going to be something that you enjoy and you don't want to miss. Like if I don't work out, I'm not a crazy, but even just walking on the weekend, I'm like, I need to do that because it's just a part of my routine.
And, here's the thing too, that for people that are watching, I haven't always loved exercise. I haven't always loved working out, but because I made it a habit, I got into it. And then, I felt good and I felt better. And now I do love it. So, and it's not that I want to do it every morning and get up early or anything like that, but it's a lot easier for me to just get it done. And when before, when I was working a 8 to 5 job, I would go in to the gym at, I think it was 7, and work out for about a half an hour with the trainer 3 times a week, and then go to work right after that. And that's what worked, because at the end of the day, I could actually get a workout in because I was meeting somebody, but I just didn't have the same energy level. And, but like you mentioned before, it's not for everybody. It's whatever works for you.
It doesn't have to be going to the gym. It doesn't have to be doing weights. It's whatever you're going to consistently do is key. Yeah.
So when you say that consistency is the most important factor,
yes, I do think you need to be consistent. I don't mean you have to do it every day. That's just my crazy way of probably relieving stress. But I do think, like anything, if it's, if the habit's going to become routine, it has to be consistent. Yeah. And that's similar to when we describe diets or eating. I mean, you can have your cheat days by all means, but you can't eat well for 3 days and eat horribly for 6 or 7 and expect to meet your goals, right? So I think whatever's realistic, whether it's a 20-minute walk, whether it's a 2-hour workout, whatever's realistic for each individual, just try to do a routine you're going to be able to keep up.
I love that too. And then it doesn't even have to be that long, because my boyfriend and I were talking the other day, and he had read somewhere or heard or something. Anyway, somebody could not motivate themselves to go to the gym. And it started out that it was like 3 days. They just put their shoes by the front door, and each day then they just moved. Then it was they drove to the gym, and that's it. That's all they did. They didn't do any more. They didn't do any less. And then it just kind of built on itself. And now they don't even have to think about it. And another guest I had on the show, she used to sleep in her workout clothes until it became a habit, so that when she got up in the morning, she didn't even have to think about getting dressed. She was ready to go.
Good for her. She obviously was determined to reach her goal. And if that made it happen, I wouldn't want to be sleeping in my workout clothes, but it's good on her.
Yeah. But I mean, it got her into the habit, so that, eventually it wasn't a hassle to get dressed in the morning again, because she was used to working out. So, whatever it takes, I guess. But I just love the idea of, picking something that you enjoy and something that is consistent, like you said, because the thing is you might start out doing something that you think is not that much, and then all of a sudden you're running a marathon because you got used to that, and you want to try more. You can do more. Let's do more.
And I mean, listen, as an instructor, there was days that I didn't want to. I'm not trying to paint this picture perfect of I eat clean, and there was many days I wouldn't want to, but I've never finished a workout, a walk, where I haven't felt better afterwards. So it's just motivating people to hopefully do what they can. And once you start feeling better, hopefully they'll keep it in their routine.
Well, it's a momentum thing too. Once you get the plane at cruising altitude, it's not such a hassle. Or,
exactly.
It's not, you have to think about it, or it's just natural. So, or at least more natural. I still have to plan things out, because otherwise it might not necessarily get done, even if it is important to me. So, That's another thing. I love that you schedule things because I'm a scheduler too. And it took me a long time to come to that realization that in order for me to succeed in life, I actually need to schedule things out. Just because it's important to me doesn't make it happen organically.
Absolutely. So, well, because life happens, right? Things happen. So yeah, that's probably another reason why I do it in the morning, because there's less, everyone's sleeping, there's less chance of something happening, and then I can carry on, and it works.
Yeah, exactly. So for people to reach out to you, I put this up before. I want to make sure that people can reach out. So this is your Facebook. And then in a minute, I'm going to put up your email address as well. So if people want to reach out to you.
I would love to connect with anyone. Again, my last name with no vowels. I'm pretty easily found.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm on LinkedIn as well. So I would love to hear from anyone.
Love it. We are just about out of time. I'm just curious if there's any last sort of thoughts or tips or anything that you'd love to leave with the audience.
You know what? I think people should be a lot more aware of the foods that they're eating. Look at ingredients lists. Look at the products you're using. I know people say if you can't pronounce it, you probably don't want to use it. Just be aware. I was pretty naive in thinking, no, there can't be any carcinogenics or carcinogens in food or in products and so forth. Unfortunately, the standards are different in possibly every state, every country. So my message would really be for people to just make sure you're educated, and I don't mean educated in school, but just their due diligence, look at labels, be aware that there are toxins and chemicals and so forth, whether it's in the products we use or the food that we made or it's grown in. So just be aware and consider your health, because it's we all want to live long and healthy.
Exactly. So there's something that, as you were talking about that, it made me really think about it too. I can't remember who it was. He's a doctor and he's got a million books out. But anyway, he said, if you don't put it on, if you wouldn't buy it from the grocery store, you probably shouldn't be eating it if it's in the ingredient list. Like if you don't have bicarbonate on your shelf, then maybe you
want to eat it.
Yeah. Or natural flavors. What's natural flavors? Well, nicotine's a natural substance as well, but that doesn't mean you want that in your body. So,
right.
These are all things that you sort of learn with time. And I just love that, though, because I like the idea that you make things. Not everybody does. And there are ways to buy things that you can easily read the ingredients.
Absolutely.
The one thing I miss about living in Canada is the healthcare.
You're very lucky.
Yes. In the US, though, it's people complain about how expensive organic food is or farm fresh and that kind of thing. But, the healthcare here is a lot more expensive. And do you want to spend your money on keeping yourself healthy, or do you want to spend it on keeping the sickness and the, diseases from cropping up so much? I don't know. I guess it just depends on what your difficulty level is. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, yes, I feel very fortunate that I live in Canada, because even going through the chemo treatments, some of them were covered, but some of them weren't. And in the States, I don't think any of them would have been. So having the Ontario health benefit, I was very grateful for. So another reason for sure to know what you're eating, know what products you're using, because you don't want to have to be paying the hospital fees.
No,
and I do think what we eat and the products that we buy and use, I do think that has an effect on our health. So just be knowledgeable, right?
I love that. On that note, I just want to say thank you for joining us today. It's been a pleasure getting to hear your knowledge and your wisdom and your thoughts.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. We'll see you soon.
Okay, take care.
Isn't she amazing? Real quick, I just want to put up her email address one more time. Jenn Smrz. You can find her easily because her last name is easy to remember. Anyway, thank you for joining us today, and especially if you're joining us live. It is always a pleasure to have everyone here, and we will see you next week.